What's up, guys? It is Lee and Sam here with episode 13, unlucky 13 of Tutorials Play Badly. And on this unlucky episode, oh boy, we're going to be looking at keyframes and timelines. So we're really getting into the advanced logic now. What?
It's going to be a struggle.
If you've mastered the basics of animation, perhaps you I can't even read. No line, you logic. Perhaps you're ready. Can you read the intro? My brain is melting.
Perhaps you're ready to learn how to create more complex motion.
Perhaps I am. Here you'll learn all about keyframes, including how to blend them and place them on timelines. Right, if you haven't watched one of these before, me and Sam are not experts on the tutorials, far from it. If you know nothing about them, if you're just starting to learn with the release of Dreams, this is a good place to start, because we can learn together. If you're an expert at Dreams, please tell us what's wrong with us. I'm going to hand the controller over to Sam. Here we go.
Animate wobbly platforms with the action recorder, but keyframes are where animation gets serious. Nice try, Cuthbert, but leave the dream shaping to the experts. We're going to use keyframes to animate the platform so Connie can reach the exit.
Really got to focus this time.
Any changes you make to an
I'll try, but Harmon's been a bit distracting.
Tweak menu settings, or anything else you can think of. Then it stores those changes in a gadget that you can switch on and off.
Listen to the man. Don't look at the cat. Listen to the man.
Let's use keyframes to help Connie get across those platforms. First, go to the assembly menu. If it's closed, press the square button to open it.
It's open. We're good.
Look for the animate button, which has a clapperboard icon, and click on that. Start by selecting the keyframe gadget, which is the one with the diamond and the plus sign. Then stamp it in the scene above the first gap. You'll notice there's now a stop recording button in the context menu.
Have you noticed that?
Now
Yes.
looks like a red keyframe. That means
Looks
the
like a little
keyframe
animated
gadget is
squiggle.
recording any changes you make in the scene.
Diamond.
But unlike the action recorder, it only records the state of things, not a period of time.
Hear that?
It's probably easy
State
to
of things.
understand.
Not a
if you
period
put
of
it into
time.
practice.
Repeating is
Try
not
it on the
listening. I
block
know
on
you
the
said.
ground in front of Connie. Grab it with R2 and place it between the first two platforms. You'll see some dashed lines appear on the block. These tell you that the keyframe has recorded the change you've made to the object. You can move it as many times as you like. It'll only store the final result.
Oh, interesting.
If that's not the outcome you wanted, you can always undo your last change with the left
This is not the
directional
action
button.
recorder that would record the moving.
The next bit is super important. To finish and store your changes in the keyframe, you need to select the stop recording button in the context menu.
What's interesting is when you're animating a
Select it now and see
cutscene,
what
you can
happens.
take the guy's hand and you can move
That's
it up,
right.
so the hand's in
block
the air
is
then.
snapped back to its
Kind of like
original
stop
position.
motion, but I think it's easier than stop
That's because
motion
the
because I've never
keyframe
done stop
isn't
motion,
active
but I
right
believe you
now.
have to do every single frame of stop motion for it to
Yeah.
make
can
sense.
See what's
Yeah.
recorded
Whereas
by
in
selecting the
this,
gadget with
once the
the
hand
button.
goes up and then the keyframe works,
There.
I think
The block is
Dreams
back to
fills
where
in the
you left
blanks. So it fills in the hand
You'll
going from its
notice the
first
keyframe doesn't
position to
record
going
how
up.
things move,
So it is
just where they
slightly
move.
quicker to make cutscenes than doing stop motion.
Make sure you deselect.
Well, I
the
say
keyframe
slightly. It's
before
probably
moving
a
on.
hell of a time saver.
You can do that by pressing the circle button. In the next step, I'll show you how to use your keyframe in the scene.
Supposed to stop recording?
Yeah, you said that.
Okay, cool.
Now that you've recorded a keyframe, let's look at how to activate it. See the trigger zone above the first platform? Select it with X to check its area of effect. Okay, it looks like the zone stretches across the whole gap.
If you're picking up some audio
Deselect
interference,
it
it
with
is
the
our
circle
cat.
button.
It'll stop when she
Then
sells
use
that.
the sticks or the grab cam
It
to
should
move
be
closer to the
quickly.
gadget. You'll notice an output port on its side, labelled Detected. This sends a signal when it detects a possessed puppet like Connie. We need to connect this to the keyframe, so select the port with R2 or X to create a wire. Then stretch it to the keyframe gadget with your imp and use R2 or X to connect the wire to the power port. Now the trigger zone
Interesting.
signal
I just had a
will flash
tingle.
on the keyframe when it detects Connie. Try it out in play mode. Just press the options button. And
Harmony's trying
select
to be
the
all stealthy
control
on the sofa. Yeah, we see you. Not as ninja as you think you are.
Oh, that's cool.
See?
So I got into the
As soon as
detection
Connie
zone and
enters the trigger
Go.
zone area, the block springs
Nice.
into place.
And we can probably tweak that
It works
keyframe.
okay, but the animation's a
Oh,
bit
it's
fast,
better.
don't you think?
I do think that.
We can do something about that after you take Connie across.
oh, okay.
Head back into edit mode. Rewind time with L3, and I'll show you how to add smoothing to the keyframe in the next step.
Well, why are we rewinding?
What can't you about that?
You just told me to take her across.
I know, right? Played you like a fool.
I'm not
Okay
gonna
then,
rewind.
we've made a simple keyframe animation. Now
Harmony's
it's time
left
to
the
smooth
room.
it
You
out
should be
and
okay.
make it look better. Like almost everything in Dreams, keyframes can be tweaked. So open this one's tweak menu. Hold L1, then press the square button over it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I L1X'd it.
Man, it's a
L1
simple
circle.
instruction.
You'll
L1
see two
square,
sliders
that's
at the
better.
bottom. Slow power up and slow power down. These determine how long it takes.
Getting
for
a
the
tingle
keyframe to
because this
turn
makes
on fully.
Really?
sense.
Hover
Don't you
over
think?
the slow power up slider
Yeah,
now
but it's
and hold
remembering
X.
it.
Yeah, I think I could remember
Then
this.
move your imp to the right to increase
Seems
the
pretty
value.
simple.
Let's set it to 1 second for now. You can set slow power down to any value you like. Then close the tweak menu by selecting the cross icon in the corner. Or you can hold L1 over the menu, then press the circle button. Let's see what that looks like in play mode. Ah, yes, that
Ah,
looks a lot
that was more
smoother.
graceful.
If you're happy with the new animation, switch back to edit
It went
mode.
down so slowly.
Show me again.
Rewind time with L3 and move
That's
on
much
to the
better.
next step.
And then if you come out of the zone, it'll go down.
So remember, kids, you need to tweak your animation so it looks professional and not like a janky piece of shit.
It looks like the bridge
Kids.
across the next gap has collapsed. We could just move it back into place, but where's the
Should.
fun in that? Let's perform a
I
little
know.
bit of magic instead. Go to
Hi,
the
Jack.
assembly menu and select another keyframe from the animate menu. Stamp it above the gap with R2 or X.
Now we're
Now see if you
recording,
can
so we
reassemble
put these
the
in
bridge.
place.
Grab the first part and move it back where it should be. One of
Triangle
the
to
great things
realign.
about keyframes is that they can affect
Yeah.
multiple objects.
Give me a second.
So you can put the other half of the bridge back too. Then select stop recording from the
Rotate, what's the
context
Tri-
easy
menu
rotate?
just push
to store
triangle.
your changes.
Oh, okay.
Once recording stops, the bridge will go back to its original position.
Sends the shape to the closest
So,
90
select
degrees.
the keyframe with X if you want to see those changes again. I could have done a better job at positioning the bridge. Nothing to worry about though, because editing a keyframe is easy. Just select the Edit Keyframe button in the context menu. It's got the same icon as a keyframe gadget. This allows you to make changes to the keyframe. You can remove things from a keyframe by pressing the triangle button over them.
So you just select it again and you can edit it.
Makes
And
sense.
now the bridges are back on the ground.
Makes sense.
Let's put them back into place, but this time, make sure they're a bit straighter.
So we're going to change the trigger zone for this one, just to the button. Oh, it's
Remember,
already done.
When
So
you're grabbing things, you can realign them by pressing the
Yeah,
triangle
connected
button.
though, yeah.
where did I put that? Do
There
that.
we
Oh,
go.
here it is.
Much better. You can select stop recording again to finish editing this keyframe. Then move on to the next step when your bridge is in place. The bridge's new position.
Mommy never wants to play when we're not recording.
No.
So all we need now is a way to activate it.
She's so noisy. We need to get her softer toys.
This zone will come in handy. Let's select it to see what zone it covers. It's not in the gap this time. It's over this button. First, create a wire from the trigger zone's output using R2 or X. Then stretch it over to the keyframe and connect it to its power port.
I already done this.
When Connie steps on the button now, the keyframe will be switched on. But what happens when she leaves the trigger zone? Let's test it in play mode to find out.
It's gonna fall down because the trigger zone's so tiny. Won't give her time to cross.
When Connie moves away, the keyframe switches off. Let's head back to edit mode and see what we can do about that. Of course, we could just move the trigger zone into the gap, but this is an animation tutorial. So let's see if we can use the keyframe's tweak menu to fix the problem. Open it now with the L1 and square button shortcut and have a look at the options there. Hovering over the buttons will bring up their names. The one we're interested in is called Keep Changes. With this option turned on, any changes made by the animation will be permanent.
Okay.
So once Connie activates the keyframe, the bridge will stay in its new position until you rewind the scene. Since we're already in the tweak menu, let's add some smoothing to that animation. I think I'll set it to 2 seconds this time.
Oh my gosh, this is how you like unlock new areas. So if you were to
L1 and the circle
trigger
button,
something that would like destroy a boulder or something to unlock a passageway, you could do that. And then like in another part of the scene, the boulder would be gone, and then
how's that for a magic trick?
you'd keep the changes.
Exactly.
You can switch back to edit mode, rewind time, and experiment with the keyframe to see what else you can do. Maybe you could try keyframing a tweak menu setting, or animating some elements from the tutorial collection. When you're done, move on to the next step, and I'll show you how to use keyframes on a timeline.
Should we play or should we continue?
Carry on.
Keyframes are great for making simple animations. But if you want to make something more complex, you need a
Good looking
timeline.
bridge though.
See that little block floating between the last two platforms? Let's use keyframes on a timeline to animate it.
Oh boy.
Start by selecting a timeline from the Animate menu.
Can I just
Stamp
plonk
it
it?
down somewhere around the last gap. Then you can use the circle button to unequip the gadget. Now open the timeline, hold L1 over it and press X.
Oh jeez.
This is the timeline canvas. You can move the canvas with your imp by grabbing it with R2.
Yes you can.
The numbers along the top are seconds, and you can see it set to 8 seconds by default. If you grab the edges with X, you can extend or shorten the canvas. Try setting it to around 6 seconds. If you ever need extra space to add more things, you can also extend the bottom of the timeline. Once you're comfortable with moving and resizing the timeline canvas, move on to the next step and we'll start adding things to it. Now, it's time to animate the floating block. Get a new keyframe from the Animate menu and stamp it in the scene.
Stamp it in the scene, not
Now grab and move the block to its
You heard the
starting
man.
position at the edge of the platform where Cuthbert's waiting. Once the block's in place, remember to press the Stop Recording button in the context menu.
Stop.
Now,
So then
grab the
that's gotta
keyframe
be
gadget and move it over the timeline. The gadget will snap to it. Place it at the very start of the timeline. Then get another keyframe from the Animate menu. We'll use this one to record the block's second position. This time, stamp the keyframe directly onto the timeline. Around the 2-second mark is good.
Sneaky.
On the same row as the first keyframe.
How do I stamp it now that
Move the floating block to the opposite side of the gap.
I'll stop recording.
Now stop recording.
What did you just do?
Hover over the timeline canvas.
Put a second
and play
keyframe in.
controls will appear.
But I need to edit that now
Using these
and
controls,
move
you
the
can
block to
preview
the
just the
second
timeline
position.
without
Did you
playing
clone the
rest
first
of
one?
The scene.
No.
Select the
That is
play
a new
button
one.
to preview
Okay.
your animation. As you can see, gadgets are only active when the timeline's playhead is over them.
Recording.
So, when neither of the keyframes are switched on, the block goes right back to its original position. Now we need to edit the animation
I don't
so
know
the
why I did,
first
but it's not right.
keyframe blends into the second. To do that, open the first keyframe's tweak menu with L1 and the square button.
Pause it.
Now that the keyframe is on a timeline,
Not right at all, Sam. Not right at all.
What did his do?
Okay.
Well, maybe his was the same because he's tweaking it now. It's like it only does. It's only in that position for a teeny amount of time. So maybe he's
Alright.
gonna drag it out.
Alright, play on.
the buttons that were grayed out before are available. These are blend types, and they change how one keyframe merges into the next. Select the linear button, which will blend to the next keyframe at a constant speed. If you press the timeline's
an
play
X
button
changes
now,
blend.
you'll see the platform move smoothly between the keyframed
I don't think
positions.
it's right. Let's tweak it.
Feel free to try out other blend types and see how they affect the animation. Then move on to the next step when you're ready.
By prattling around, I already selected the right one. Can I press play on it and see what it does?
I think we've got it quite right.
It's got a pathway though, look.
Keep watching, see what he says. Because we've still not actually turned the timeline on, have we?
I just press
We've got
play
the
on the
platform
timeline.
moving smoothly now, but we can still
no, we
improve
don't.
how it works. Let's begin by making it pause for a moment at the start and finish, so Connie has an easier time getting on. All we have to do is scale the keyframes on the timeline, so they last longer. You might want to get up close to the first keyframe before we start. Now, with your imp over the keyframe, hold the up directional button to extend it. Then do the same with the second keyframe. Now that the keyframes are longer, the blend has become quicker. You can see it for yourself by selecting the play button under the timeline. If you want to scale a keyframe more
Did something.
precisely, you can do that with its trim handles. Trim handles
Oh, I did
are
do
the
it.
dotted lines at the beginning and end of keyframes.
Just weird how it goes.
Grab them now with R2 to give it a
Goes
try.
back into the middle. Do you need to click keep changes or something?
We should get the platform back to where it started
I
now.
don't think we've got to that
But
bit
instead
yet.
of adding a new keyframe, we're going to clone the first one. You remember how to clone things, right? Just hold L1 and grab the first keyframe with R2. Now drag it past the second keyframe and place it by releasing R2. Now we just need to add the blending between the last two keyframes. Only this time, we'll use a shortcut instead of the tweak menu. Just hover
Oh, you
over
already
the
found
space
this.
between those keyframes, then hold L1 and press X.
There we go.
There you go. One linear blend
There
added.
we go.
You can even cycle through different blend types by keeping L1 held and pressing X again. I love shortcuts
Not bad.
because I'm lazy.
Wizardry.
Use
Ah,
the
it still
play
goes in the
controls
middle
on the timeline to preview the animation. Move on to the final step when you're ready to continue.
You might be getting us to loop it, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know. Or it might just be you've got one chance to get across.
Because there's some space at the end of the timeline where none of the keyframes are active,
Oh,
the
okay.
platform just snaps right back to its original position.
So maybe you just like get rid of the timeline.
There's a few ways
That'd be
we could
crazy.
fix this. For example, we could shorten the timeline so there's no gap at the end.
But you did.
We could also lengthen the keyframe
I think I still have a bit of a
animation
gap.
so it fills up the whole timeline. Or we could turn on keep changes in the last keyframes.
Yes, I
tweak
thought
menu.
so.
Yeah.
Do it. No. L on a circle?
L1 is... Oh!
The
What did you do?
is
I
tweaking
just
the
circled
timeline
out of
itself.
that.
L on a circle.
L1 and
So,
circle, start recording.
hold
L1 and
L1
square
anywhere
to
over it,
tweak.
then
No.
press
Nope.
the square button to
I need
see
to
all of
open
its
this one
properties.
first.
Stop. X. X by itself?
The playback speed makes it go faster or
What's
slower.
X by itself? It's L1 and X. Just open the
But what
timeline.
we're interested
L1
in
and
right now
square
is the
is to
playback
tweak.
mode. When it's set
Change.
to
So
1,
behind there.
the whole timeline will play, even if it was only powered
Now
for a
you gotta
split
tweak it.
second. When it's set to
Tweak the
sustain,
timeline.
it will only play when it has constant
L
power.
on square, quick.
It will stop when it loses power, then resume from that point if it's turned on again. And if it's set to loop, it will repeat over and over as long as it has power. That sounds like the best option for this timeline, so select that one. Okay, it looks like we're good to go. You can close the timeline now by selecting the cross icon in the top right corner.
Oh,
Or you can hold L1 over the timeline itself, then press the circle button. Click L3 to rewind time and test out your changes in play mode. Once you're happy with everything, exit through the door to complete
Actually-
this tutorial.
Pretty painless.
yeah. I think I understood some of that.
We could definitely make a platformer now. We've made it this far, we could actually make a platformer. Even though you hate platformers.
Let's do it. I'm not testing it though.
Thank you very much for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. We are Ugly Surfer Gaming and we upload new videos Monday to Friday from Dreams Early Access. If you like our content, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, share the video on your favourite corner of the internet. Any one of those things really helps us out. Thank you very much.